والسلام علي يوم ولدت ويوم أموت ويوم أبعث حيا ذلك عيسى ابن مريم قول الحق الذي فيه يمترون.
Okay, last time our topic was Muhammad is Christian. Today our topic, Jesus is Muslim. Just to recap, I will reiterate what we discussed last time. Muhammad is Christian because so says the evidence, the facts. I'm not concerned here with religion or with dogmas of any type, just the facts. The fact is, when he was young, he was raised, or at least he was educated, mixed with Christian monks, Christian Arab, of course. We're talking about a time when Arabs, this is early Arab Christianity. Later on, when he grew up, he was entrusted with Christian money, Christian Arab money. He conducted Christian trade for Christians. He married a Christian woman. His children are from a Christian woman. When he adopted a son, an Arab Christian son again. And finally, when the Quran was revealed unto him, it mentioned Jesus much more than it mentioned himself. It revolved around the history and geography of Palestine much more than anything else. And his Terra Santa, his holy land, where he prayed, the direction of his prayer was Palestine, Jerusalem, just like Christians do. And even when the direction of prayer was shifted to Mecca, it was shifted towards the icon of Jesus, a room empty of everything except the icon of Jesus Christ. That's where originally Islam prayed towards that and circumambulated that. Now, today we're not concerned with that. What we're concerned with, okay, Muhammad is Christian sounds odd enough. Now Christ is Muslim, it sounds odd again. It only sounds odd because we're not used to it, and we're taught dogmatically illogical nonsense. The facts don't change. They're there. They're just told to us illogically, without any logic. So how is that? How is Jesus Christian? That's what the Quran says. Is that true? Are those the facts? How can we determine that to begin with, since Christianity's at least the biggest annas of Christianity and are Western? And that's, the West doesn't say that. It decides that that's just something Muhammad said. It's not the fact, as far as the West is concerned. To know whether it is a fact or not, we have to survey a period whereby there was no Muhammad, there was no Islam yet, and there were no Western Christians yet. Christianity is a Palestinian Arab religion, and that's not just a tiny era. It's 300 years, because the West adopted Christianity around the year 300. And before that, only Arabs were Christian. So for 300 years, only Arabs were Christian. After that, another 300 years until Muhammad comes, until Islam comes, you have 600 years. So we're going to survey that period. The first period, the first 300 years, only Arabs were Christian. And they would, of course, the predominant majority of Arabs and the biggest Arab tribes were all Christian. And they were dedicated. We were under a Roman occupation, Roman and Persian, as usual, at that time. And Arabs were dedicated. They had a law to describe them as the enemies of the state. Arab Christians were the enemies of the state. Why was that? Well, because they refused to bow to the Roman emperor. Why would you bow to a Roman emperor? Because a Roman emperor was considered not only an emperor, he had two natures, a divine nature and a human nature. That's why you find temples dedicated to Roman emperors. So the only people who refused that were Arab Christians, because they would only bow to God, and they were dedicated as the enemies of the state officially, and they were persecuted. And it's well known, persecution of what what Western sources would call early Christianity is actually persecution of Arabs. Because this is where Christianity began. Palestine and its founders were Arabs. As I said, the majority of Arabs. Now after that, at some point in time, which is around the year 300, the religion had spread so much, this Arab religion, that the state decided to make it an official state religion, and so they did under an emperor named Constantine. Now we have to keep in mind this Constantine was of two natures, divine, as far as Roman, pagan, or Western civilization and culture are concerned. It's a Western concept. This guy is a man and he has a divine nature. So that's why you bow down to him. And it's allegiance to the state to do that. And the only people who would do that were the Arabs. So Arab Christians were designated as the enemies of the state. But after Christianity became officially a state religion, you would imagine that would relieve the Arab Christians. They're not the enemies of the state anymore, right? Wrong. They remain the enemies of the state. So the Arabs were the enemies of the Roman state prior to Christianity. Arab Christians were the enemies of the state, and Arab Christians remained the enemies of the state after the state adopted Christianity. How odd. No, because Arab Christianity considered Jesus a prophet of one human nature, not divine at all. I will reiterate again, this is the main bone of contention, or the main issue that differentiates Islam from, between quotations, Christianity, actually, between Islam and Western Roman paganism, named Christianity. Now, remember, 300 years, we have 300 years prior to the adoption of Christianity, we still don't have Islam. We have 300 years after Christianity, we still don't have Islam. So now in this period, after 300, the West has become Christian as far as official Roman decree, and Arabs are Christian. Then why are they still the enemies of state? For one reason, that they refused the divinity of Christ. You have to keep in mind, these were the original Christians who were Christian 300 years before the West decided to adopt Christianity. And how do I know that? Simple. From the annals of the church. Of the Western church. This is the only thing all the churches of the world agreed upon. Rome had a meeting for all the churches of the world, an ecumenical council whereby whoever refused the divinity of Christ, two natures of Christ, was persecuted. He remained the enemy of the state, and they applied the laws to him, very similar to the laws the Lebanese now apply to Palestinians. You cannot own property, you cannot work, you cannot marry. If you marry, you can't bequeath. So, and of course they were persecuted and killed. But the Arab Christians of the time, did not stop at that. They revolted against the divinity of Christ for 300 consecutive years, non-stop. One revolt after the other. In the annals of the church, they're not called that. They're just called heresies. All the churches of the world decided that they would fight this heresy. And so in the annals of the church, it's called the different heresies. And this is all you will find it under church unification laws. These are the only laws that all the churches of the world agree upon in all their denominations. And this is these ecumenical councils that decreed this span 300 years, with the exception of one church in the entire world. It was excluded. Which church is that? What's excluded now? Palestine. Palestine cannot be Arab. Christianity cannot be Palestinian. It must have a Western reference. So Palestine was excluded from the very beginning. Jerusalem was considered the only non-Christian church. It wasn't invited to the meetings, and it wasn't included in any meeting because they refused, of course, the divinity of Christ. And the first revolt was called the Arian heresy. Of course, once you research it, Arian or Arius was an Arab. And the revolts occurred in Palestine, Syria, Egypt, Iraq. The second revolt, the slogan was very clear. Christ is not a god, he is a man. So that was put down by force, of course, extreme violence, extreme Western violence put down. So the next revolt is called, in the annals of the church, the Nestorian heresy. Who's Nestor? Another Arab. Where was the revolt? Again, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, Palestine, Arab countries. What was the slogan? Since the first slogan was already prohibited, you're not allowed to say that under penalty of death and everything else imaginable. What's the next one? The next one is, the next slogan for the Nestorian heresy is, Mary is the mother of a man, not a god. So it's the same thing. Again, put down by force. And followed by a third revolt, which is Jesus has one nature. Two, and this did not stop, as I said, it's easy to find, until, with no exception, they are all Arab without one exception. Until when? What stopped all of this? Muhammad? What does he have to do with this? Now Muhammad's born and Islam is revealed. But did Islam come and put it down by force like the Romans? No. They just ended. The Romans couldn't stop them. They ended with the coming of Islam. Why did they end? They vanished. Because the Arab Christians considered Muhammad, one of them, they won as far as they're concerned. Islam came and liberated them from the Romans. At the time, became Byzantium flank of the Roman Empire. And they won. So they all became Muslim. And that's why the biggest tribes of Arabia that are now considered Arabia as an exclusively Muslim place, they were all Christian because they considered the same religion. It remains to be said that, of course, when they first exited the peninsula in support of Palestine, the early Muslims prayed in Christian churches. They went to mosques and they prayed alongside Christians inside Christian churches. Originally, the first prayers of Islam in the area of Syria, Palestine, Egypt were all in Christian churches. Thank you very much.